This is one of the ruthless and demanding investors, one of the most feared investors on Wall Street. He's widely known for his aggressive activism and impactful campaigns. His methods have reshaped corporate America and earned him the title of the most dangerous investor in the world.
This is not an honest guy, and this is not a guy who keeps his word, and this is a guy who takes advantage of little people.
And the investment banker said, come on outside, Carl. So I come outside with him and said, look, he said, they don't like you at all. If you start buying more stock, we're going to dilute the hell out of you.
Why was he doing what he was a bully, okay?
You don't have the balls to do what I'll tell you to do.
He's known for his bold and often confrontational style.
I was concerned about dealing with Carl Icahn because Carl Icahn, unfortunately, does not have a good reputation for being a handshake guy.
Listen to me. I was called in by Max Meyer to have a conversation, not to argue with you. On Wall Street, if you want a friend, get a dog. I didn't get on to be bullied by you, okay?
Carl Icahn founded Icahn Enterprises, a diversified conglomerate with interests in various sectors like energy, automotive, and real estate. He has a track record of acquiring significant stakes in companies and advocating for changes, which might include management shakeups and asset sales or stock buybacks. The label most dangerous investor in the world reflects the high level of influence and disruption that Carl Icahn's activist approach can bring to the companies and industries he targets. While his strategies often lead to increased shareholder value, it can also introduce considerable risk and uncertainty.
When everybody hates it, you buy them. And then when everybody wants them, you sell it to them. And that's what we do. And we go in and we clean up a company. There are many companies in the country that are very well run, but many are terribly run.
During the 80s, Icahn made a series of highly publicized hostile takeovers and leveraged buyouts, where he would acquire a controlling stake in a company and then force changes that he believed would increase its value. This aggressive approach earned him the title of corporate raider, something he would be called again and again in the press, and he became one of the most feared and respected investors of his time. One of the most famous examples of his corporate raiding was his hostile takeover of TWA in 1985. He acquired a controlling stake in the airline and then engaged in a bitter battle with management over the future of the company. Despite opposition from the company's management, he ultimately emerged victorious, and he was able to turn the company around and increase its value. This successful takeover earned him a substantial profit and further solidified his reputation as a savvy and successful investor. At the same time, the company went bankrupt several times before eventually selling itself to American Airlines, and he was accused of focusing on his own short-term profits at the expense of the company's longer-term health, a complaint that would be echoed throughout his career.
I think his reputation on one level certainly has improved. I think more people see him as a man of his word and as a credible acquirer of companies than perhaps they did a year ago. He has to be considered as a true takeover threat.
Another well-known example of Icahn's corporate raiding was his attempted hostile takeover of Texaco in 1988. He acquired a large stake in the company and then launched a hostile takeover bid, which led to a prolonged and highly publicized battle with management. He ultimately failed to acquire the company, but the takeover attempt increased Texaco's stock price and earned him a substantial profit. Carl Icahn wears the badge of a rough-and-tumble, brawling investor proudly. Her website still refers to the battle with Texaco with this quote, "A lot of people die fighting tyranny. The least I can do is vote against it," in reference to his battle with the company. These types of high-stakes battles earned him a reputation as a ruthless and demanding investor, and he became one of the most well-known and influential figures in the world of finance. Please subscribe if you find this video informative, and please hit that notification bell so you will be notified when we drop another video. In 2022, Icahn launched an activist campaign and proxy battle against another business giant, McDonald's. What made this pitch different was that he had a tiny position in the company and that his activist campaign was against a company that was well-performing financially. Carl Icahn focused on McDonald's treatment of the pigs it raised for meat. He argued that their treatment was both inhuman and went against a pledge the company made to reform its practices. While his focus was different, his tools were familiar. He nominated 2 board members to add to McDonald's board to help enforce a reform. Ultimately, Icahn's campaign failed and both his nominees were voted down. He cited several other firms that pledged to make their practices more humane as a positive effect of his campaigning.
What are you accusing Herbalife of?
Being a pyramid scheme. We believe Herbalife is a pyramid scheme.
How much money have you spent betting against Herbalife?
We have a short position of over $1 billion. It is illegal to run a pyramid scheme.
But
a tiny fraction of 1% of the people here make a real living from working with Herbalife.
But what if the government
93% make nothing?
Doesn't agree with you? What if they investigate, don't find anything? Doesn't the company has been around for 32 years.
That won't happen.
One of the most famous examples of Icahn's activism in recent years was his battle with Bill Ackman over Herbalife. Ackerman had bet against Herbalife stock and claimed that the company was operating as a pyramid scheme. Carl Icahn decided to take the other side of the trade, buying a large position in the company and defending its business model. The battle between Ackerman and Icahn became one of the most watched and closely followed corporate battles in recent years, peaking in a widely viewed TV debate between the two. Herbalife stock continued to climb after Carl's entry, showcasing both the power and influence that Carl wields in the business world.
I really sort of had it with this guy, Ackman. Hey, let's start out with my history with this guy. I was minding my own business, and in 2003, I get a call from this Ackman guy. And I'm telling you, he's like the crybaby in the schoolyard. You know, I went to a tough school in Queens, and they used to beat up the little Jewish boys, and he was like one of these little Jewish boys crying that the world was taking advantage of him.
Another notable example of Icahn's activism was his involvement in the Dell buyout in 2013. Carl took a large position in the company and then launched a public campaign against the proposed buyout by Michael Dell and Silver Lake Partners. He argued that the proposed buyout undervalued the company, and he demanded that the buyout price be increased. The battle between Icahn and the Dell management became one of the most closely watched corporate battles of the year, and it showcased Icahn's ability to influence the outcome of major corporate deals. He managed to get Dell to increase his offer, though not by a great amount. In 2018, Carl returned to the battlefield opposing Dell's plan to return to the market. Specifically, Dell planned to buy out tracking shares for its ownership of VMware, and Carl Icahn felt Dell would again be shortchanging shareholders. He had more success in this round, getting Dell to increase its offer by over 10%.
We do have a bombshell today from short seller Hindenburg Research, which is revealing a new short position against Carl Icahn's IEP. The Hindenburg report says IEP has significantly inflated the value of its assets, that it trades at an unreasonable premium. Hindenburg also goes after IEP's dividend yield of 15.8%, saying it, quote, equates to an absurd 50.5% of last reported indicative value net asset value. They allege the dividend is unsupported by IEP's cash flow and investment performance, which they say has been negative for years. And in one of the most explosive passages in their report today, Hindenburg says, in quote, in brief, Icahn has been using money taken in from new investors to pay out dividends to old investors. Such Ponzi-like economic structures are sustainable only to the extent that new money is willing to risk being the last one, quote, holding the bag.
After Ackerman accused Herbalife Company of being a Ponzi scheme. In May last year, Hindenburg Research went after Icahn Enterprises, alleging inflated asset valuations and excess leverage and running a Ponzi scheme. With the reputation that Hindenburg Research has on calling out corporate frauds, this has caused a fall in the company's share price, from which it has yet to meaningfully recover. But he didn't sit back and watch her name being dragged through the mud. He hit back at Anderson's firm, claiming the report was created solely to generate profits on its short position at the expense of Icahn Enterprises' long-term stakeholders.
Carl Icahn has never been one to shy away from a fight, but apparently neither is Hindenburg.
Right, and Carl Icahn likes a fight, but usually he's not at the receiving end of so much vitriol. So it really is going to be a test for him to see how he fights back against Hindenburg. I'm sure we'll do whatever he can to get the stock price up. So this isn't over. Shares today weren't down that much after Hindenburg's response. There's a lot of retail shareholders in the stock. It's sort of a liquid, and Icahn controls 84% of it. So this is his own wealth tied up here. Yeah. He also could fight this for a really long time. So we're just really getting started here, and it's a lot of fun to cover.
To watch the full fight between Carl Icahn and Hindenburg Research, click the video in the end screen.